The New York Giants have something special going on this season. I'll tell you all about it coming up next here on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, credential member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find all of my written work. And as always, we welcome on in our Blue Crew community members, our everydayers, our newcomers, and everybody in between. And thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And if you're making us your first listen of the day, we appreciate that as well. Today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $20 off your first purchase. All right, Giant fans, on today's Locked On Giants podcast, I've kind of been talking about doing this, and I'm finally getting around to doing it. But the Giants have something special going on, and specifically the play of their special teams, which doesn't get a whole lot of love, but special teams, believe it or not, has been really, really good this year for the New York Giants. So I've got some stats and some data from True Media for you to break it all down. And we'll talk about some of the things the Giants are doing differently, which has kind of made a difference. Because look, special teams is 1/3 of the game, and we just don't talk about it enough. And I think it's high time we do that. In segment 2, we're going to take a look at some more scenarios, keep or trade for the Giants. Now, there's one guy that I am going to say should be traded, all right, different from yesterday's show when I talked about Devin Singletary. And then there were two guys that have kind of been mentioned. One of whom was really a surprise to me when I saw him mentioned on Pro Football Focus. But we'll talk about those two and why it's not a good idea to trade those two particular guys. Then in segment 3, we'll wrap things up with some statistical superlatives, just some little things that I found just, researching and whatnot. So that is our list of topics for today on the Locked On Giants podcast. Again, welcome on in to everybody. All right, let's talk special teams. Again, special teams doesn't get a whole lot of credit. The only time we really talk about it, it seems of late, is when they screw up. Now, it hasn't been perfect. No unit is ever perfect. But the Giants special teams unit this year has been really, really, really good. I mean, really good. So let's break down some rankings and some stats. According to True Media, the Giants kickoff return game has averaged 27.2 yards on kickoff returns, which is 6th in the NFL. When they had defended kickoff returns, the Giants' defensive kickoff returns, or their coverage, has ranked 3rd in the NFL. So Giants doing really well on both kickoffs and kickoff coverage. On punt returns, the Giants are averaging 9.3 yards on punt returns, which is 22nd. Okay, not great, but not horrible. But when they cover punts, they've allowed opponents just 4.7 yards per return, which is 4th best in the NFL. That's pretty good. All right, let's talk average starting field position. The Giants, again, covering the opponent has started off minus 25.2. Now, minus means that the opponent is starting on their own 25.2 yard line, okay? That is the best in the NFL right now through 6 weeks of play. The Giants' average starting field position has been minus 31.7, or their 31 yard line, or close to 32. 4th best mark in the NFL. The Giants are also one of 5 teams who have converted 100% of their field goal tries. Disclaimer though, the Giants have only attempted 8 field goals, which is 2nd lowest behind the Eagles. Now, there's a good thing or a bright spot about that stat. It means the Giants are relying less and less on the field goal unit and more on the offense to get them into the end zone. So when the opportunities do come up, the Giants are, capitalizing on the field goal range. Now, of note, obviously, we know Graham Gano is on IR. Jude McEntee has been handling the field goal kicking. And I don't believe Jude McEntee has attempted anything over, I want to say anything over 45 yards. So that helps as well. So the Giants special teams, really, really, really good. Now let's look at some things that they have been doing that have helped them. Lately, they have had Jamie Gillen, the punter, kick off instead of Jude McEntee. Now, at first, I got to admit, when they started doing that, I was a little like, why are they doing this? And then you think about it. Jamie Gillen is a left-footed punter. And when that ball comes off his foot, it takes a little different of a spin, if you will. And it has been said that, fielding a kick from a left-footed punter is a little trickier than fielding one from a right-footed punter. So I think that has had something to do with it. But more importantly, you look at the special teams unit, not a whole lot of penalties there. Guys are staying in their lanes. Guys are getting downfield. They're getting off of blocks and they're making plays. And it's just added all up and it's been solid. And oh, by the way, the Giants are getting some really good gunner play. All right, we've seen Art Green play gunner. We've seen Nick Jones play gunner. They have done a really good job with how they have allocated the personnel with the coverage and with the, blocking for returns and all that stuff. So the special teams unit, again, we don't talk about a whole lot about it, but it's high time we did. And it was something I wanted to do on this show because that unit has really played well. And kudos to Michael Gabriel, who's in his second season as a special teams coordinator for the Giants. Previously, he came from the Jets, where he was the assistant special teams coordinator. And if I remember correctly, the Jets, when Gabriel was there, the Jets had a pretty good special teams unit. So whatever lessons Gabriel picked up during his time with the Jets, he's carried it over to the Giants. And I like how he's not afraid to try different things. Having Jamie Gillen, do the kickoffs, to put the extra spin on the ball that makes it harder to field it. Just really, really good special teams play all around from the New York Giants. And that's been a factor, folks, because look, field position is everything. Starting field position, the better you can do for your offense, give your offense a shorter field to work with, the better it's going to be. And on the other side, the longer a field your opponent has to work with, the easier it tends to be for the defense. And I don't have to tell you guys and gals that special teams and starting field position, if you're starting on your 40-yard line as opposed to your 20-yard line, that does affect how you call a game, what plays you call and how what coverage is or what kind of passing and all that stuff. So the Giants have helped themselves tremendously with the play of their special teams. And it's high time they got kudos. So here you are. All right, Giant fans, coming up next, we're going to talk some more about some possible trades. The trade deadline is less than 3 weeks away. So we'll take a look at another trade scenario that I think the Giants should do. And then I've got a couple that I saw pop up that no way would I make these trades, even though, there's money savings involved and whatnot. So I'll tell you what all those are coming up right after this. Hey, Giant fans, the NFL season is here and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So, let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, and coming up tomorrow's crossover Thursday, Locked On Giants, Locked On Broncos. Sayre Bettinger of Locked On Broncos, co-host of Locked On Broncos, and I break down everything you need to know, from the key matchups to the keys to the game to the big storylines ahead of the clash of the Giants and the Broncos in the Mile High City this weekend. So do tune in if you can tomorrow. And also coming up on Thursday, we have the new edition of the Giants Squad Show hosted by Jay Berman, featuring myself and former Giants cornerback Mark Collins. So we've got a whole lot of stuff to break down for you on that show as well. It's an hour-long stream. It kicks off at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern on Thursday, and we hope you will join us for that particular show. All right, getting back to today's show. Again, with the NFL trade deadline coming up, I thought I'd take a look at another trade scenario that I would do if I were the Giants, and how I would kind of fill in the gaps and whatnot regarding the role. And then there's a couple of proposed trades that I've seen online that I just absolutely would not make. So let's get to the one that I would make first. The one that I would make first, Evan Neal. Now, it is pretty clear that the Giants just don't have a spot for Evan Neal right now, for whatever the reason. Probably because he hasn't developed as they hoped he would as a guard. So why keep him on the roster? What are you accomplishing by keeping him on the roster? Now, you're probably saying, well, you have a backup guard, or in an absolute pinch, you have a backup tackle. Evan Neal's not playing tackle again for this team. They would put Marcus Bowe out there, rightfully so, I might add, before they put Evan Neal out there at tackle. At guard, I mean, you've got Aaron Stinney, who's been out there over Evan Neal. And then here's another thing. They have Joshua Ezeudu, who is currently on IR, but he is ready to return, right? He was already designated to return by the Giants. He's ready to go. Now, Joshua Ezeudu, let's look at the numbers first off. Evan Neal costs the Giants $64,705 per week. So let's say they move him by week 9, by the trade deadline. They stand to save only $582,357. It's not a lot, but it's something. All right. Joshua Ezeudu, on the flip side, costs the Giants $85,472.11 per week. Now, you're saying, but Pat, Joshua Ezeudu costs more than Evan Neal to carry. My argument here, folks, is why carry both of them? Joshua Ezeudu, if you need him to play tackle in a pinch, and I want to stress, he's really, tackle is not really his best position. But if you need him out there, you probably would want him out there faster than Evan Neal, based on what Evan Neal has shown at tackle. Joshua Ezeudu is better equipped inside as guard. So the whole idea is, why carry both of those guys? Why not move one of them and see if you can get a day 3 draft pick? I mean, I don't understand. It's like they're sitting there, they're taking up cap space. And I get it. Both of them are in the final year of their respective deals. But if you send, Evan Neal to a team that needs tackle help, I think the Bucks, if I'm not mistaken, need tackle help. Maybe they can resurrect Evan Neal's career because it ain't happening here with the Giants. So why hang on to him? Doesn't make sense in my opinion. All right, now, there were a couple of trades that have been floating out there, one of which Pro Football Focus proposed. And this one just totally blew my mind that this would even come up. And that was that the Giants might consider trading Jermaine Illuminor. And I saw that and I was like, what are you guys talking about? Now, Pro Football Focus's argument was Illuminor's in the final year of his deal. Marcus Bowe is probably going to take over that spot if the Giants don't re-sign him. So why not see if you can't get something for him? Because Jermaine Illuminor, behind Andrew Thomas, Jermaine Illuminor has been the second best offensive lineman the Giants have had out there. There is no way they are trading Jermaine Illuminor. None. Why would you do that? All right? I get it. Marcus Bowe is waiting in the wings, and he has shown a lot of promise. But why would you disrupt that offensive line unless you had to because of injury? Why would you do that with a rookie quarterback? You wouldn't. So there's just no way I see the Giants moving Jermaine Illuminor. I just think that that trade proposal, while creative, I give them points for being creative, it doesn't make sense. Not at all. Another trade that doesn't make sense, and this one's probably going to draw some pushback from some of you, Kayvon Thibodeau. Now, look, some of you are saying, get something for him now because, he's playing at a high enough level. You got Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter can come out there and he can take over and play that position. And now you've got Burns and Carter and, there's your dynamic duo. But folks, Kayvon Thibodeau is playing really well. They finally have 3 solid pass rushers. And let's not forget that Kayvon Thibodeau has been really, really good against the run. How good? He sets that edge and he has funneled a lot of those running plays inside to where they belong. You don't see very many outside runs going to his side. And you know what? That's a big reason why the run defense has started to really turn things around. Because when you let guys get to the outside, then, it becomes a little harder to defend against them. But if you funnel things inside where you've got more defenders inside, chances are you're going to curtail that running game. So I don't understand why, people want to see Kayvon Thibodeau gone. He's under contract for this year. They have him under contract for next year after picking up his option year. See what happens. A good defensive coordinator will figure out a way to put all 3 of those guys on the field. Now, right now, what we have seen in some instances when the 3 of them have been out on the field, one of them usually ends up playing out of position. Probably need a little bit more creativity to make sure that, it's not Carter out of position, or it's not Burns out of position, or it's not Thibodeau out of position. But I would not dismantle that 3-headed monster, if you will, that has been so good for the Giants. It's been a strength for the Giants. It's been everything I think a lot of us hoped it would be. So I just don't see where it makes any sense to break that trio up. And I know out of all the potential trade targets that the Giants might have, Thibodeau would probably bring the largest return on investment. But again, he's playing really well. And that defense is helping out the offense with a rookie quarterback at the helm, by the way. So why would you want to dismantle it? And then the other, piece of logic is, yes, the Giants have a losing record right now. But what if they somehow, and, it remains to be seen, but look, they've beaten 2 teams that were pretty good and were postseason contenders last year. What if the Giants somehow start stacking wins? Do you really want to dismantle the team and you know, break up key spots? I could see getting rid of excess players. I've talked about, Devin Singletary on yesterday's show. I mentioned, moving Evan Neal, for whom that doesn't seem they have a role for. But that's a big difference between excess players and guys who are core players. So to me, just doesn't make sense for the Giants to do that. But it's not my call. It's Joe Shane's call. We'll see what he does. Joe Shane historically has overvalued his players. He doesn't believe in giving guys away. So I can't fathom he would give anybody away in a trade unless he got really, really good value in return for them. All right, Giant fans, coming up next, we're going to talk about some superlative stats. So don't go anywhere. I'll have that for you right after this. Hey, Giant fans, NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium, surrounded by fans cheering on your team. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a hassle. Between queues, login screens, and prices jumping at checkout, it's very frustrating. That's why you need to check out Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all the fees are included so that the price you see is the price you will pay. See where your seats are, and the closer it gets to showtime, you stand to save even more. So go on and take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, download Game Time today. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. And before I get into this next segment, I just want to take a moment to send best wishes to former Jets center Nick Mangold. Now, I don't know if y'all saw the news. I know this is a Giants podcast, but bear with me a second here. But Nick Mangold is apparently having some health issues and is in need of a kidney donation, or a kidney transplant, I should say. And when I saw the news, I felt like I wanted to share this story with you guys and gals, because way back in the day when I first got on Twitter, or what today is known as X, was known as Twitter back then, one of the very first people to follow me, believe it or not, was Nick Mangold. And even though I'm a Giant reporter and have been for my entire career, Nick Mangold was nice enough to, reach out to me a couple of times and, praise me for the work that I was doing. He had read my work, and he was very complimentary of it. So that was kind of nice. Whenever you hear from somebody who plays the game, who tells you, you're spot on, you're doing a good job, it really means something. And, obviously we lost touch, because again, I'm a Giants reporter. He played for the Jets for so many years at such a high level. But you never like to see stories like that. So I'm sending best wishes out to Nick Mangold in hopes that, he's okay, that he finds a kidney donor and he's able to live a long and healthy life moving forward. So thanks for letting me just mention that before we get into this next segment. All right, let's talk now about some statistical superlatives. So what I like to do every once in a while, I like to go through the stat book and I like to see if there's anything that kind of jumps out and just grabs my attention. And, I want to talk about Bobby Okereke, because Bobby O is a guy that I know a lot of people are kind of down on because he hasn't quite been the same force that he was in 2023. But actually, folks, Bobby's been playing a lot better this year. And according to True Media, Bobby O against the run has 30 tackles this season, which is ninth in the league. And, oh, by the way, that's better than Dexter Lawrence's total. Dexter has 15 tackles, which is ranked 156. Now, for what it's worth, before anybody jumps down my throat, Dexter's job is to take up space. So sometimes he's not going to make all the tackles. He's not going to lead the team in tackles. I get that. But, the point being is Bobby O hit the ground running. Dexter took a little time to kind of get up and running. Now he's starting to look like the Dexter Lawrence of old, but Bobby O has been quietly, coming into his own, doing a better job getting off blocks and being a little bit more physical than maybe he was to start the season. All right. Abdul Carter, Brian Burns, and Kayvon Thibodeau. Let's talk about those guys. Those guys, in terms of pressures, it's interesting in the player rankings, they're all kind of grouped together. Carter has 24 pressures, which is tied for 16th in the league and leads the Giants, by the way. Burns has 23, which is tied for 21st in the league. And Thibodeau, 22, which is tied for 24th in the league. All right, so all three of those guys in the top 25 league-wide in quarterback pressures. So they're getting home to the quarterback and they're disrupting things in the offensive backfield, which is what you want, and which, by the way, is why you don't want to trade Kayvon Thibodeau, one of many reasons. All right, now, this one I thought was kind of cool. Jackson Dart is tied for third amongst quarterbacks with 7 runs of 10 or more yards. And he is one of 7 quarterbacks who has a design run of 15 plus yards. All right. Jackson Dart, what can I say? The kid's been everything they hoped he'd be. Can run, he can throw, his decision making is solid. Still a few things you need him to clean up. Obviously, you want to see him slide and stop taking on these big hits that he's taking on. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to see the kid in the medical tent every single week. I'm sure the Giants don't want to see that. I'm sure Jackson doesn't want to see that. But Jackson Dart has just kind of opened up a whole new element of this offense this year that really didn't exist. And I think in a future show, I'll take a look at how the Giants have maybe altered the offense a little bit with Jackson Dart in there, if that's something of interest to you guys and gals. So I can certainly take a look at that and break that down in terms of, the different pass routes they've done, tendencies and all that stuff. So if that's something you guys want to see, let me know. Drop a comment in the box below if you're on YouTube, or just, if you're listening on our audio platforms, just let me know if you want that. All right. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Giants. Now, a couple things before we say goodbye. Obviously, we had a show yesterday or the other day where I talked about nicknames for Jackson Dart, Cam Scattaboo, and the duo. So on the YouTube channel, when I get a chance, I'm going to post a poll. And I just want to see, because I got some really good feedback from you guys and gals, especially on YouTube. So I'm going to post a poll. And I'm going to let you vote on the ones that you like the best. All right. So we'll see how that comes out. And if you want to drop a comment, we can, talk about that and devote a segment of that to the show. So that should be a lot of fun, I think, to kind of see which direction you guys and gals want to go at. All right. Now, as always, we thank you for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. The NFL season is finally here. So for your next listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast with Tyler the Madman Rowland, who gives you a double shot of espresso to start your day, and Tony Wiggins, who takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, Giant fans, tomorrow, Crossover Thursday. Be sure to tune in. Also, don't forget, 1 o'clock on Thursday, the Giants Squad Show. Jay Berman, myself, former Giants cornerback, Mark Collins. We'll see you tomorrow here on the Locked On Giants podcast.